Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, integrative health, nutrition and lifestyle coach. I'm an author, obviously a podcaster, and I am the creator of Infinite Freedom and the Freedom Unleashed programs, both programs that help get you free from the obsession and the compulsion to turn to food, exercise, your weight, and how you look and feel to help you to navigate life. I help you to eliminate the thoughts, the beliefs, the stuff that's keeping you stuck in repeating those patterns so that you can finally let them go and find peace and contentment in your own skin, being in the body that you're meant to be in, and actually loving who you are and what you do. Now, that sounds like something that isn't so difficult for a lot of people. But if you are someone who has struggled with food and your size and your shape, and you've been trying to change it for decades, then you will know exactly what I mean. If you're somebody who has struggled and has kept on repeatedly picking up alcohol and then trying to stop and then picking up again, then you will also know exactly what I mean. And if you've done both, well, for sure you'll get it. Now, those things, those addictions, particularly food and alcohol, the things that we ingest that will make a difference to our size and our shape and how we feel in our bodies and about our bodies. Those two things particularly are what I focus on and specialize in because they were my issues. And the help available to me when I needed it was pretty abysmal, to say the least, which means that through a lot of trial and error, through an awful lot of study and a lot of deep education, I created a way of helping people because through trial and error, I figured out what worked for me and has worked for a lot of people in the past. The main key things that are not being presented to us generally. And one of the things that has cropped up, and it did for me, and it has pretty much for the majority, there's always an exception. There's a couple of people who it actually wasn't an issue for, but pretty much across the board, the people that I help have all had some issues with money. Now, we can say, well, everybody has issues with money. I think a lot of people may at times have struggles where it's been in abundance and then maybe it hasn't. But there seems to be a very powerful and strong correlation, connection, association between people who have got food issues, body shape issues, and money. And it comes down to deserving. That is what it bottles down to. That's what it boils down to. It's this idea that I don't deserve to spend money on myself. And I certainly can't waste money on food, because what if I don't eat it? Or what if I do eat it and I throw it up? Or what if I feel that I have to eat all of it because I've bought it, because I've spent money on it, therefore that equals you have to eat it all. Now, if any of those thought processes ring true for you, then what I'm about to share is probably relevant to you. See, when it comes to our behavior around food and around our body, whether we follow the path of wanting to restrict because we're trying to get smaller in this belief that thinner is better, and the smaller you are, the more uncomfortable it is to get there, the more pain you have to go through to achieve this smaller size that people will notice, and you want them to, except you don't want to be noticed, but you do want them to notice the hard work that you've gone to, and you want the praise. And you don't get it because people don't think that it's something to be praised. Starve yourself and look like some kind of famine victim. When you don't get that, there is this feeling that you still don't deserve. The belief that if we get smaller, we are better than. We will feel superior in some ways because we are the ones who had the willpower to not eat the cake or the ice cream or the chocolate or whatever was the thing that everybody else was eating, even though we really wanted to, right? We were desperate to eat it because we love food. We wouldn't let ourselves. We're looking for the praise and we're looking for the results of doing that, getting smaller, in the hope that we will feel enough, in the hope that we will feel deserving. And what anybody who has gone through that and who knows exactly what I'm talking about and has come through the other side will tell you that it doesn't matter what size you are or were, those feelings do not get changed by your body size, because there's always a reason for you to tell yourself it's still not good enough. You could always be smaller. You could always get thinner. You could always try harder. You could always restrict more. And the answer is that some people actually do, and they never come back from it. They drop down of a heart attack, or they decide that it's all just too hard, and they decide to end their life in another way. For the people who do survive, there is often a struggle along that recovery process with how they think and feel about what they deserve. And that includes money and them allowing themselves to spend money on food. Now, there's a powerful story, and it's one that's been around for centuries. This is not new, is that it's a sin to waste food. And I'm not sure, I'm not a religious person. I don't know my Bible passages inside and out, but I think it's potentially come from some kind of scriptures and beliefs that it is sinful to waste anything, right? Be it food, be it water, whatever it is, any resource. And therefore, if you do that, you are by default a bad person. However, when it comes to us being able to reconnect to our bodies and to find out just what is a normal way of eating for us, and it's really important that I caveat that with what is normal for us, because we are all different. Whether you're somebody who's had an eating disorder or is going through disordered eating, the struggles are similar in that you don't necessarily know what is right for your body because you've just completely lost connection with it. And so one of the things that I do from the very start is help you to learn how to reconnect back into your body, to learn to listen to what it's telling you. And to start with, you don't know, right? You're not going to be able to tune in to the signals that other people may have. What people don't recognize is that oftentimes people who are exhibiting anorexia are hungry. They do have hunger. They know what it feels like. If a lot of the time they're flipping starving, that they've taught themselves that discomfort and that pain is a good thing. And so when it comes then to them starting to learn to eat again like a normal person, or what is normal for them, the signals of hunger and full up just are not functioning right. And they take quite a long time to get back online because they're all to do with your hormone balance. And if you've not been eating, if you've not been getting in the nutrients that actually create those hormones, there's been no building blocks to make those hormones, then they are not as powerful and you are not tuned into them. So this disconnection and this ability to ignore, dismiss, or just completely tell yourself the bad feelings, the uncomfortable feelings are a good thing, whichever one or all that you've been doing, it's very challenging to get back in touch with those hunger and full up signals. And there's also a massive fear. And this is often why people who have gone down the path of anorexia then flip into binge eating or bulimic tendencies, because they feel there's a fear that once they start eating, they'll never be able to stop. Now, when those full up signals are not working properly to tell you when to stop, you can understand why that feels like a legitimate fear. But over time, when you learn to actually listen and allow yourself and give yourself permission to leave food and to try and to have a go and give yourself the space and the time to work out just what is a right-sized meal for your body at this moment, at this stage of your recovery. And then allowing yourself to recognize that it will change as your hormones get back on track. But this thing about not deserving to spend money on yourself is something that can make recovery far longer than it needs to be. There's this idea that there is shame around having to spend money on buying new clothes. Oftentimes people who have anorexia or bulimia, and it's not obvious for people who have bulimia necessarily, but they often have 3 different wardrobes. They will have spent a lot of money on clothes. Maybe they have a kind of wardrobe that stems from a size 4 up to a 14 or a size 6 up to a 16, because over the years they have managed to stick with restricting for a long time and gotten results, but then it was unsustainable. They've gone back to binge eating, or if they're bulimic, often their size doesn't change massively. Everybody is different in how they experience these things. The same with disordered eating and with people who are addicted to exercise. In terms of their actual body size, dress size, there's not necessarily a massive change, but they don't like spending money on new clothes, particularly people who are going through recovery from anorexia, because having to buy a size up psychologically when you got a high and you were motivated and telling yourself that you were achieving what you wanted, you were getting smaller by purchasing clothes in smaller and smaller sizes. When you start reversing that, that's a heck of a blow to your ego and to your feelings of worth. And the story that, well, it's just a waste of money. So we have waste of money on clothes, we have waste of money on food. And this is where the problems come in, because if you're telling yourself, if you buy food, you have to eat it all, we have now got an awful lot of pressure on you, because that means that you've got to be very discerning in the foods that you will buy, because you won't spend money on foods that you're frightened of binging on. Yet you want to taste them. You just want a mouthful. But you tell yourself you don't deserve to buy a whole ice cream if you're just going to have 1 or 2 mouthfuls. That would be a waste. And what I'm inviting you to do is get comfortable with allowing yourself to waste food and see it as an experiment, because you are better off still feeling that you have a sense of control and that you can throw that food away and it's okay, rather than forcing yourself to eat it all because you've bought it, and then for the rest of the day, maybe the next day as well, exhibiting old patterns of wanting to make up for it, of telling yourself how bad you are, how weak-willed you are, how just like everybody else you are, that you're no longer superior, that you no longer have this incredible willpower and control, that you are basically a rubbish person. If you allow yourself to throw that ice cream away when you've had what you want, you are starting to recognize that you can give your body what it needs, and you're going to be okay. That you can waste food and the world won't end and nobody will die. This idea that you can't waste food because there are other people starving in the world, it's a crazy correlation that you've been fed from school and from parents and what have you. The fact that you stuff a whole ice cream down your face when you don't want to is not going to change the amount of people who are starving in other countries, not even 1 iota, right? So where on earth we got that crazy connection from, I really don't know. Eat everything on your plate because there are people starving in Africa. Well, excuse me stuffing my face with food when I'm full and ignoring my body's signals, please tell me how that helps somebody in Africa who hasn't eaten for weeks in any way, shape or form. It absolutely makes no difference whatsoever. So when we can look at the stories that we're telling ourselves, these beliefs that have been handed down to us, they're not ours, right? But we take them on board because we keep hearing them. And remember, what your brain hears consistently, whether it's true or not, if you accept it, it believes it. And it will remember it for you, so you don't have to. It'll remind you of it. It's rubbish. It's a lie. It's bunkum. It's just not true. This is the stuff that I help people to eliminate, right? This stuff is never helpful. It never was, right? Ideally, we shouldn't have heard it in the first place because it's so ridiculous. But we do, and we have. And unfortunately, there are grandparents out there, bless you, who keep repeating stuff like that. And we've got to remember that our money story is often a money story that's not ours. It's passed down to us. If you have come from a background where you heard that you couldn't waste money on food, or that because you'd paid for it in a restaurant, you have to eat everything on your plate, well, you're going to take that on. You're going to take that on board. And therefore, you're going to feel the pressure. If I go out to eat and I've paid for the meal, I've got to eat everything on my plate. Whoever said that needs educating. Because when you go out to eat in a restaurant, you're not just paying for the food on your plate. And for anyone who's worked in a restaurant, you will know exactly what I'm talking about, right? The food is a part of what you pay for. But what you pay for when you're sitting down in a restaurant is also to pay the staff who are serving you, is to pay the cleaners who make sure the venue is tidy, is to pay the chefs, is to pay towards the gas bills and the water bills and the rates and the rent of the building that you're sitting in while you're eating your meal. If you are so poorly educated as an adult to believe that when you go out, the price that is on the menu is only for the food, you need to recognize that that is not true. And if you didn't know that, well, you do now. And you need to pass that on to your kids, right? It is not just the food that you are paying for when you go out to a restaurant for a meal. Well, people say to me, oh, yeah, but they've now started charging the same for takeaways. Well, yeah, because the place that the food is being made in still has to pay their gas bill and their electric bill and the staff who are cooking it, and they still have to pay their rent and they still have to pay their rates. There's only one part of the equation that's missing. They're not serving it to you on a table, but unless they're using Uber Eats or one of the other services, then somebody has to actually physically deliver it to you. So you're still paying for the person to bring it to your door. And this is the part that I really do sometimes struggle with, especially with people who you think, well, you know what, they're educated and they're smart people. And yet I hear them say, I'm not paying that for that. And I just want to go, yeah, but you're not paying just for that food on the menu. You're paying for everything else. And it's the venue that you're in and the quality of the service that you're getting. And this is just education. This is not new stuff. This is not rocket science. But if we're not educating our kids of that fact, and they also believe that it's just the food that is that price and it's not worth it, or you teach them to believe that if it's that price, I'd better have a plate full because more is better. Well, we're giving them some terrible education and some terrible incorrect information that they are then using to beat themselves up with, right? Especially those who then go on to have issues with food and disordered eating. So the last episode and this episode, it feels as if I'm adult and parent bashing, but it's not. Kids are educated via their parents. Whether you like it or not, parents, that is what happens. Your child picks up what you do. They watch, it goes in. Even before you think that they are taking it in, they are. Right from being a bump inside you, right? What is happening energetically, the conversations that you're having, the feelings and the emotions, the stress that you're going through is being picked up. The language, even if they may not have the comprehensive skills and may not have the language skills to answer back yet, it's going in, right? From 0 to 7. Right? This stuff is going in, whether you like it or not, whether you think that your child is different or not, whether you think you're hiding it from them and you're being clever. No, they see it, they hear it, they feel it. So be careful what stories you have got around money, because chances are you are passing them on to your children. Again, be careful what you're passing on in terms of how you speak about your body. Because if you as an adult are grabbing hold of bits of skin in your hands and shaking it and calling yourself names, and if they see that you are then praising people who are very tiny and very slim, what is the message you are giving them? You haven't actually said anything to them, but what is the message that they are picking up loud and clear? Fat is bad, skinny is good. Same thing when it comes to money. If you believe that bigger is better, if you believe the more expensive it is, the better quality is, they're going to pick that up. If you believe that you are not worth spending money on, that you are not worthy of having new clothes, they are going to pick up on that as well. So if you are somebody who has recognized that you have got an eating disorder or disordered eating, and you know that your money story is making recovery hard, I'm inviting you to have a conversation with me to help you to change that money story, because until you can recognize that you do deserve to spend money on, it is okay for you to not eat everything that you've paid for in one go. You don't have to eat everything that's available just because it's free. When you start to recognize that money is just energy, just like feelings are energy. And energy is meant to go around. We give it out, we receive it. And that's what's supposed to happen with money. And it's the same thing, whether we're thinking about our feelings about money, our feelings about our body, our feelings about food, and the stories that we're telling ourselves. We need to change the ones that are keeping us stuck. We need to get rid of the ones that are stopping us from having the relationship with ourselves and loving our body in a way that we want to, that's going to serve us, but not just us, our own children as well. Because it's important for you to deal with this stuff now. Otherwise, you will perpetuate these crazy money stories that money doesn't grow on trees, that you have to eat everything on your plate if you have paid for a meal out in a restaurant, that you're not allowed to leave food because there are people starving in other countries. If you're believing any of this stuff, if you believe you don't deserve to have new clothes and look good as your body is changing, this is the stuff that we need to help you to change. And if you want to have a conversation about what that could look like, I would love you to get in touch with me. All of my details are in the show notes. There's a link to my website in there as well. If you want to book a call via the website and have a look at what I do, please do. But know that you're not mad. Know that you're not weird. If you have got a powerful money story and you are also somebody who is struggling with body image, food, weight, exercise, it's part and parcel of the package. They tend to go hand in hand because you're coming from a place of lack and not deserving. And until you recognize that you are deserving, you are worthy, and you are enough, you're going to keep on with this money issue. And that can potentially cause problems within relationships. And as I said, with your own kids, if you go on to have them. So now is the time to work on it. And if you're ready to do that, I'm here and ready to help you. If you have enjoyed what I've had to say, please give me a like. Please do subscribe. If you think this might be helpful to somebody that you know, please do pass it on to them. The more we can start talking about these things, the more we can stop thinking that there's something wrong with us and that we're extra weird because we have this warped way of thinking about money and our bodies and deserving. The more we can help more and more people to recognize this is just yet another aspect of having issues around our body and our size and our worth. And we can change it if you want to do the work, because you are worth it. And I'm just going to leave you with this. We only have one life as far as we know, and one body. Please look after it, because no matter how you've treated it, you are still here. Therefore, it is looking after you. Until next time, take care.